HGI Now, turning supply chain insights into action.
Welcome to HGI Now. I'm Caletha Crawford, Head of Content for Hertzman Global Intelligence. Today, I'm joined by Romain Narcy, Partner in charge of Innovation and Strategy at Ereks-Blue Matters, a denim production company in Turkey. Romain, I know you kind of married into the denim industry when you joined your father-in-law's company. And then from there, you kind of fell in love with the product itself. And then, kind of continuing with that analogy, your new baby is Rematter. So you're a founder there. And I'm sure you'll tell us more about that. But Rematters is a consultancy that essentially is helping companies build and scale their circular innovation and solutions. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about, how the industry is approaching circularity, the ways in which you and Rematters are trying to help overcome some of the obstacles that we're facing, and what it actually takes to scale innovation today.
Thank you, Caletha.
So one of the big issues that I know that we're facing as an industry is that, whether it's a brand, supplier, factory, everyone's kind of going about sustainability in general and then circularity in particular in very different ways, based on what their particular needs are, their size, their tech stack, all of these things go and factor into how they're approaching it. But the outcome is that we have a very fractured landscape right now, with factories and mills having to do a lot of redundant work. There's a lot of cost associated with that. And I have to imagine that it's also impacting the progress that we're able to see and able to make. So, from your perspective, is it possible to harmonize these technologies and platforms? And then, maybe you have some insight into how all of this inefficiency really is impacting progress.
Yes, I mean we've come from the compliance on social and environmental sides where we have seen that there is a lack of harmonization. So it's we have still many standards we have to answer to, and we have multiple audits running in certain period of the year, depending of the EU, I mean, French standard, UK standard, or American standard. So it's a bit worrying also regarding ESPR, which is the Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulation that is upcoming, and ESPR has mandated the digital product passport. So we are, of course, we are worried that uh, how this harmonization is going to take place. It's not enforced yet, so it's still a bit blurry. And we made some proof of concept with some of the brands we work with. I know there are some initiative to harmonize that, but nothing implemented yet. So I
Mhm.
hope the brands will be better than they have not been with the social and environmental compliance regarding ESPR and DPP. If we go on the cost of inefficiency, of course, I mean, it's always, as I said, we have multiple cost structure, multiple, because every client, when they want an audit, then it's invoiced separately. So it creates a burden. And it's not only the cost of the audits, it's also the time it's consuming. It's very time consuming for our teams that have multiple audits. So I hope we will have a clear path with the DPP and ESPR.
Mhm. To what degree do you feel like, the supplier, the factory, the mill side has been represented as you were saying, as the EU is trying to come up with their regulations and how it's all going to work?
Oh, we actually just in the last weeks we have been consulted through the since I'm in Turkey, the Turkish Textile Exporter
Mhm.
Association, for example, on commenting the text that ESPR is has prepared. So we are consulting on this kind of thing, and we give our feedback. We attend to different workshops. So there is a consultation mechanism in place if you are part of an export association or a sectoral association.
Okay. I know that a big part of the incoming legislation has to do with recycling. But, legislation is one thing, reality is another. Right now, apparel has little to no recycling infrastructure in place, all the way from collection through sorting. So, how can this be built out to scale? And, the million-dollar question or the multi-million-dollar question here is, who's going to fund it?
Or multi-billion dollar question,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, first we need to have the this collection and sorting systems in place, because we have been in that field for decades, and we have been especially concentrating on circular businesses with for 5 years now, and we see that the industry is ready to pick up, is ready to recycle. Mechanical recycling has been going on for decades, centuries, even we could say. And we see that chemical recycling is scaling up. But we need to prepare the material for that. And we also need to respect the hierarchy of waste. So sorting for reuse should be the first step. And in order to sort for reuse, we need new systems in place for collection from the consumer itself, and also smart sorting system, because today when you have collected a post-consumer textile, the sorting is done entirely manually. So a waste sorter will know how to categorize in 250, 300, sometimes 400 different uh, s- uh, s- categories.
Mhm.
So if we want progress, we need to automatize that. We need to have a better collection, but it has to be automatized and computized. So it's not only at the sorting stage, but the collection also is key here. So we need to put boxes, and we have these boxes would be also create digital twins where as soon as it's collected, there's an ID put on that garment, so you know where it has been picked, and then you can follow up through the process. So as I say, automatization and scalable system for collections, for sorting for reuse, and the part that is not eligible for reuse, for recycling. Also, we need some automatization, such as near infrared or a smart camera system.
Mhm.
Near infrared would allow you to analyze the composition of the garment, and smart cameras, the shape of the garment, or also its color. So when you combine this, you can have a feedstock that is prepared for recycling. And I mean, post-consumer, there are initiatives, and we've seen with the work we do, for example, at the Denim Deal Foundation, that it's possible at scale, because the first 3 years of the initiative, we did 12 million pair of jeans with 20% post-consumer recycled cotton in it. And we are now pushing. I mean, the target we put, the moonshot is 1 billion pair of jeans by 2030. And we see that we have 60 members in our ecosystem from 12 different countries, both from manufacturing countries as well as brand, and all the innovators around the research institute, the NGOs. So we are all pushing, we are all stimulating the ecosystem for it to be circular and successful. Because that's the key for me is it's not only the scale, it's also to stop thinking in a linear way, but build circular systems. So we also have very exciting project running around post-industrial waste in Turkey. Rematters, we have been selected to be the national lead for a project coordinated by Global Fashion Agenda and financed by H&M Foundation. Again, creating the ecosystem to maximize the use of post-industrial waste, cutting waste. And this project has been running in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Cambodia. Now we'll run. We just picked off for Turkey. So and you see that, of course, brands are part of this kind of project. So they are conscious that they need to change and go away from using only virgin material to go for recycled content. being post-industrial or post-consumer. And here again, we see some NGOs are very active in that field, like Fashion for Good, such or rehabs in Europe are working to build the necessary system. And this is all also because at the EU level, you have now the EPR system that is coming up, extended producer responsibility. So it's not harmonized yet, but because of this legislative framework, upcoming legislative framework, the brands are also taking a position and start to include recycled content in their collections, in their product, and plan to scale it as well.
Okay. And where would you say, would you say that you're on pace to hit your 2030 goal, the moonshot you mentioned?
Oh, we are so 26, 4 years to go. I mean, we now we just signed a major retailer last November from France. They do 25 million pair of jeans per year. So we are on, on the way, but 1 billion is still very ambitious. And we are at the as the denim deal. We are now onboarding. We'll have an event in London on the 25th of March. We are will be at Denim by PV in May in Italy and Kingpins in April. So we push, and we are very happy to have the biggest French retailer, Kiabi, on board because it's a signal to the industry. But
Okay.
to reaching that target, I'm not sure yet.
Okay. What is it going to take, or what kind of maybe resistance do you hear in the market, if any, when you are at these events talking about it?
Yeah, I think we need to also the consumer to change its behavior and to be I would say educating, but yeah, to rediscover the way a garment is made.
Hmm.
Because we have changed so much from in the 50s where buying a garment was very important for a family because up to 35% of your income was into clothes. Not because you were buying expensive clothes, but there were no cheap clothes actually on the market, or and you were going to have wool sweaters, you were going to the tailor to have your clothes produced. If you were a farmer, you had maybe two pair of pants, and that was it. So
Hmm.
now that clothes became a commodity, we lost as consumer, we lost touch with the reality of manufacturing. But I see interesting movement on the market, and for me, a case study that is super exciting is Vinted in France and
Hmm.
Europe. In 25, it became the first retailer in France, selling only second-hand goods. So it's a dramatic shift when we talk about Shein and the mass and the number of the thousands of new references that are put. But we see the market is going in two directions. There is one direction going really like for commodity at a low price, but there is a lot also conscious consumer that give value to their garments and that change their behavior because they want to resell that garment at a certain price, and they are also lowering their consumption. So it's again, here we see that the regulatory push is important, and the anti-waste law that was passed in France
Hmm.
first a couple of years ago, but now it's in Europe also. So you cannot destroy unsold goods now on the that. So that means that brands will also have to address overproduction because they cannot. Recycling is not considered as a solution for unsold goods. So you need to yes to find other ways to upcycle it or to transform it, but you cannot just transform it into a new garment.
Yeah. One of the things that I notice in the industry is as on the press side of things, I get a lot of press releases and a lot of information about new innovation. So there seems to be a lot of new innovation, whether we're talking about at the factory level, whether it's fibers, all kinds of innovations are sparking up. What I'm not seeing as much or hearing as much about maybe is, being able to scale some of these things, right? So, I'm wondering about, from your perspective, what it actually takes to scale. How do you get buyers to really kind of buy in? What does that look like? What do those commitments look like? And what, on the innovation side, what do you need your partners to be doing?
Yes, I think one of we could call it the scaling secret. So, which is actually to go out of that pilot phase and to be on the factory floor. For me, it should be a drop in. It should be easy for the manufacturing units to implement change. And it's true that most of the case innovation is coming from USA or Western countries, whereas the supply chain is in Asia or Euromed. So we need to link that, and that's actually one of the reasons why Rematters has been incorporated is to make the commercialization and scaling up of innovation in the supply chain. So because we also usually talk about research, and research need to be developed to be deployed actually in the factory floor. And that's where we talk about that's what we call industrialization. That's need an integration. You need to know how manufacturing is made, and you also need to explain the innovation, how to enter the factory floor, because um, if we talk about a fiber, for example, and you've been using virgin polyester for decades, and a guy comes in and say, "Hey, I have this green polyester, bio-based polyester, whatever, and I want to have it in your factory." He has a monster here. He has been producing millions of tons of polyester. And he just not take a material like that and put it in his factory. The risk is too big. So you need to work on integrating that. And we also, so one side is the industrialization itself, so how to prepare that material for production at scale. And on the other side is the buyer strategy, and how is it compensated? Because of course, an innovation may be more expensive at the beginning, but we need to have commitments from brands and and work on the financial security as well. So volumes in commitment in terms of volume and the price point also that would be absorbed by the brand or the client.
Mhm.
So yeah, we try to with rematters to smoothen that valley of death and in order to have innovations kick in. And
Yeah. And is this another area where you think that the legislation is going to help accelerate it?
I mean, innovation, it you have EU programs, for example, the accelerator program. So in that sense, of course, innovation is supported by what you would have with some DARPA project, for example, in the US that can be support innovation, even if it's for the defense industry. But that's sometimes we've seen innovation coming from defense going into the civil area. So that's important to have this kind of support, such as the European Accelerator Program or Horizon project that are supporting innovation. Regulation, in the sense of pushing to use, for example, recycled material instead of virgin material, will support that. But there are and with the extended producer responsibility, also you may have a bonus if you use green content. So it's a kind of subsidy, but it's not directly um, to the innovators within the PR system.
Yeah. So my understanding when we're talking about scaling and commercialization is that, not every brand, not every retailer is in a position to support that phase. It has its own challenges and it takes a lot of work. What have you seen that has worked? Are there any specific examples that you can point to that would be kind of a roadmap for other brands and retailers to follow?
I mean, we've given an example with the denim deal that has been a success, and now we are scaling it up. So we see that actually, and especially in the actuality of the last week, it's really important to have to decouple business growth from the unpredictable cost of virgin cotton or polyester. So by using resources that are recycled, you know it's easily available, and you are not so much subject to international politics and movement of goods. Um, we also see that the carbon border mechanism is upcoming, so brands are already getting ready for it. So circularity will become a cost avoidance because you need to reduce your CO2 impact, knowing that in general, brands are 70% of their impact is from manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, of course, you can address with circular businesses, new circular businesses such as the rental, repair, and new services. But you need to address the CO2 emission coming from manufacturing. And last but not least, I would say that I'm also seeing some exciting innovation coming on the market with reshoring via automation and circular businesses. So I don't believe in reshoring, just taking 10,000 people moving from, you cannot do it from moving back from Vietnam to USA or Europe. But if you automatize fully a garment production process, and that's a case of a very exciting company called Software Automation from Atlanta that is now able to fully automate the garmenting of a T-shirt. And brands such as the bestseller group from Denmark, it's public, so I can share it. They invested 20 million in that company last August, and they have planned to open a factory in Europe by 2028. So with automatization, we can reshore. And once we reshore production as such, we can also act smartly and include circular fibers. So fibers that would come also from goods collected in Europe, recycled in Europe. And we could imagine the same in the US. So because they have also project to open a factory in the US, and you can imagine circular business models with waste that have been collected in the US. So that's how I see the combination of innovative manufacturing and circular businesses.
Okay. I think that often in the industry, when we're talking about something like circularity, um, the first thought obviously is dollars and cents, right? What happens to margins? This is something that I can do when I have the cash flow, when the margins are looking good. But there's always going to be issues, right? There's always going to be distractions. Right now, we're dealing with the U.S. tariff situation, which is eating into margins. So, from your perspective, given that there's always going to be something else competing for those dollars, what is the business case that you can present for circularity that would get the CFO excited and kind of mobilized?
I think we need to look at circularity at different levels. So depending of where you are, let's say if you are a European-based brand, circularity could come from your country of origin and neighboring countries, and then you go to Euromed, and then you go back to Asia. So if we think about using recycled content, of course, if you recycle at short distance, it's more expensive because the costs are higher for manufacturing for workforce. If you go in Euromed, you are a bit cheaper, and if you go back to Asia, you are even cheaper. So I think you have to think circularity at different levels in terms of distance, in terms of innovation. And you should also consider the total cost of it. So, meaning that if you stay close by in the Euromed, for example, for European brand, then it means you become faster than compared to if you source. And we've seen how disrupted the market
Mhm.
today. Like the canal is closed in near Iran, and so goods cannot pass by. So to de-risk, you need to have a multiple layer sourcing strategy. And it's the same for circularity. You should include that in your strategy for circular businesses.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so what else, if you were going to, kind of leave a thought with the industry and knowing where we are right now with circularity, with the incoming legislation on the horizon, what message do you want to send about that's a positive message that this is possible? Because I think we're hearing a, a fair amount of negativity right now that we're not as an industry where we had hoped to be by now, but it seems like there could be some possible, positive things, and there are some positive things happening.
Yes, I mean, I've named a few organizations. We work with international brands that did not change their course, so they know they need to decarbonize, and these companies are seeing at 2035. So i- it's not the current instability that is going to change the way they do business. And yeah, so we see we have some ongoing partnership with Fashion for Good, with Global Fashion Agenda, the support of H&M Foundation. The denim deal is growing, so I am positive that change is still possible. I don't say it's easy, but we need to go on, and again we need, by combining circularity with innovation and automatization. So meaning automatization also. So innovation can be, of course, on the fiber, on the material stage, on the dyeing technologies, but also on garment making. So we need to have a multiple an approach from at 360 degrees and put that together. And I see that change is possible. I mean, we had a very good end of 25 business-wise at Three Matters. 26 is starting well. So yes, I am positive. It's not easy, but projects are still ongoing. It's not stalled at all.
Excellent. Well, Romain, I appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to hearing more about the progress going forward. So we'll definitely keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Caletha.
Thank you.